Hey guys, my name's Sean, and this is my 120 gallon mixed reef aquarium. I'm posting another YouTube video. This has to do with lighting settings for my Kessil A360WEs. I've gotten a lot of questions on YouTube as well as Reef to Reef and Reef Central on those forums. So I figured I'd make a quick video for you guys, show you what I use as far as the program, and let you, dive into it yourselves. Maybe these settings will work for you to, pull more color out as well as growth. So let's get started. So before I get into the actual settings of the Kessil lights, I wanted to let you know about a few parameters of my aquarium, just because they play an equally important role in having a sustainable reef tank. So the first thing is water quality. I typically do water changes every 2 weeks of about 20 to 25% water change. Also, I run activated carbon. I use the BRS ROX 0.8 carbon, and I use that once a month to to my water volume. So it's typically about a cup and a half of that for 130 gallons of water volume. Also, I'm going to do, maintain my, a good skimmer. I typically skim pretty wet, so I'm pulling out as much nutrients as I possibly can. As well, I do feed a lot in my aquarium too. So I feed twice a day. I have basically 5 fish in my aquarium, 2 tangs, a yellow tang, an Achilles tang. I have a sand sifting goby and a couple clownfish. And so I feed pretty heavy just because, for one, keeping my fish healthy and fat is important to me as well. It's giving the corals a lot of extra nutrients too. So all those combined, with proper lighting, play a big important role in keeping my aquarium healthy and really bringing out a lot of the color. So as far as the lights go, the Kessils I do have hanging about 10 inches in between the highest part of my coral, or the highest SPS coral in my aquarium, to the bottom of the light. So anyway, that's just kind of the basics of my aquarium. I should actually let you know, I keep my salinity at 1.026, and I test typically every other week. I dose Calquasser in my aquarium in my top-off water through an auto top-off, and I dose basically the maximum pretty much, which is, it's actually about 9.5 teaspoons per 10 gallons of water. So that's about as much as I want to do. I don't want to get to that 10 teaspoon mark just yet. I'll probably end up switching back over to a calcium reactor when we hit that threshold. So for right now, the 9.5 teaspoons per 10 gallons is keeping my parameters very stable. My alkalinity really sits right at about 9 DKH, and my calcium is going to be right at about 450. My magnesium sits always, it doesn't ever drop below about 1400. So that gives you kind of the overall spectral of my parameters, and really is what makes up a thriving, healthy aquarium. So let's move on to the lighting settings. Before I do that, though, I just want to throw the disclaimer out there that these are my settings, and I'm not responsible if you use them and for some reason your aquarium does crashes or something like that. Let's hope that that never happens, but once again, I do have to just throw that out there. So let's jump into this. First off, this is looking at a screenshot of my Apex Fusion app. This is the Kessil intensity setting, and if we look at it, my time frame is they kick on at 8:30 and they turn off at 9:30 at night. It's a 13-hour photo period, and it's pretty straightforward. I have him basically turning on, right at 8:30. If you notice, it does show 9%, and the 9% is because with the Apex app and Kessil lights, anything right at 9% or lower is going to shut the light off, and anything at 9% or higher is going to turn the light on. So that's why you see 9% there instead of like 0 or 1%. And then over the next, hour and 15 minutes, it's going to ramp up to about 70% intensity, where it's pretty much going to sit there throughout the whole day, back, until you hit about 8:15 at night. And the reason why this is so flat across there, it was more of an arch shape, and I've slowly lowered the intensity percentage down actually. I was sitting at about 80%, probably 6 weeks ago, and over the last 6 weeks, I've lowered it down just to see, still messing with it a little bit. But these are still optimal settings that I've found with really pulling out a ton of color out of my coral as well as still keeping excellent growth. So that's where you find, that percentage. It's probably going to all end up right around 70% or so as far as the intensity. I am going to, however, keep that 9% ramp up and ramp down rate. So moving on to the next, you're going to see the Kessil color. This is more of an arch shape, obviously, you see. Still the same time frames as far as turning on and off. Turns on at 8:30 in the morning, off at 9:30 at night. And this one with the color is, starting at 0%. So color really just shows from 0 to 100% is going to be basically how blue your tank is or how blue the LEDs are to how white the LEDs are. At 50%, your LEDs are going to be about a mix, a 50-50 mix of blues and whites. I have found that anything really over that 50% mark, as far as my aquarium goes, my colors really start to drop off on my corals, and I mean, I bumped it up actually, to give you an example, up to about 55%, and I noticed a pretty significant decrease in color where some of them started to lose a lot of color, as well as kind of brown out a little bit. So I've really found that 50-50 mix of blues and whites is pretty optimal for your full daylight time, in the middle of the afternoon, basically. And then, really I've stayed on more of the blue side as I ramp up and ramp down. So obviously you can see 8:30 is at 0%, at 10 o'clock in the morning you're at 20%, right at noon you're at about 42%. And then between 2 and 4 o'clock you jump up to 50% where it peaks. From 6 o'clock on to 9:30, you drop back down 42%, 20%, and then back to 0. So I'm going to overlap the charts now in a screenshot, and that way you can see kind of the both sides of it with the intensity as well as the color spectrum. So if you look, you can tell, once again, you'll see the intensity kind of flatlines and carries that intensity throughout the whole day. And then your colors really just show starting from 8:30 in the morning all the way through. It gets pretty white around like I said, that 2 to 4 o'clock hour, and then it comes back down fairly blue. So overall, I'd say your spectrum is probably still sitting in the middle of the day. I would say it's probably still sitting around 14K spectrum, and then really on both ends of it, you're going to be closer to that 20K spectrum. The last thing I wanted to mention is if you are using the Kessil spectral controller, the points should be fairly comparable. I believe there's 7 or 8 points that you can adjust. So ideally, you can pretty much plug in around the same settings as I have used in the Apex. The big thing is whether you use the Apex or the Kessil spectral controller, make sure you're using the acclimation time. Don't put these settings in right at once and expect good things to happen. Once again, this took weeks and months and years of slowly adjusting up and down to get to the correct setting. So depending on where your settings are sitting at right now, either go slowly move them down to these settings or up to those settings. But like I said, take your time, don't rush it. As we know, anyone who's serious in this hobby, and especially, if you're growing out SPS and harder, more difficult corals, that time, taking your time is the most important thing to having a successful reef. So this is going to wrap up the video. If you have any questions, feel free, please post them down in the comments below. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more content. I'm going to keep putting out different content, whether it's for my aquarium or other hobbies that I have, but it's always appreciated if you give it some love and hit that thumbs up button for me. Thank you.